Hare Krishna. Thank you for your association and your inspiration. Today, I will try to speak on the glories of Yamunacharya. I am doing this to convince us, each other, that we should bring up our kids in a Brahminical culture. So, Yamunacharya, he is the kind of father Acharya of Ramanujacharya. Yamunacharya and Ramanujacharya are one of the greatest gurus, saints of Hinduism of all times. They probably lived around 1100 AD. Actually, Ramanujacharya, we had the Sahasrabdi recently, the 1000-year celebration of Ramanujacharya birthday. So maybe this story is around 1100 years old. So Yamunacharya was going to his guru around the age of maybe 7 or 12 to get sikshana, okay, to get knowledge. And during that time, there was a I think this happened in the Pandya kingdom, somewhere around Madurai area. I'm not exactly sure where this stories happened. So when I believe Yamunacharya's teacher was Bhashyacharya, and the king, he had an Asthana Pandit called Kolahala. So Kolahala was a very, very pious person. He was very, very learned. Unfortunately, he was also very, very puffed up. He was so puffed up that he used his knowledge to punish other people. Now, Mother Saraswati is very nice. She gave Saraswati Kataksham. Firstly, I request you all to pray for me and bless me so that I get Saraswati Kataksham to speak about the glories of Hinduism. So Yamunacharya was so this person Kolahala, he was saying he was going around trying to defeat all the Panditas, and he's saying whoever is defeated by him has to pay tax. So he was collecting tax from many people because he defeated them. So one day the tax collector for Kolahala, who Kolahala is again the Asthana Pandit of the kingdom there, he goes to collect money from Bhashyacharya, and Bhashyacharya, he is outside. He went out somewhere. So he tells Yamunacharya, I believe Yamunacharya's time at that point was Alavandar. I could be wrong there. So he asks Yamunacharya to basically for the tax, saying that your guru owes tax. Then Yamunacharya retorts saying, the question of Kolahala defeating my guru does not arise because you have to defeat me, his disciple, first. The person was very stunned, but he goes back and reports that to the Asthana Pandit. The Asthana Pandit was annoyed that a 7-year-old or a 12-year-old kid has challenged him, and he says, oh, call the boy, I will defeat him, and then he has to pay the tax. So the servants of Kolahala go and tell Yamunacharya that he should come and to have a debate with Kolahala. Yamunacharya responds saying, look, Kolahala, he is the Asthana Pandit, he is the king's pet, he is the king's learned person in the court. So I will come only if I am given Raja Maryada, only if I am given all the honors due to a guest of the kingdom. The king hears about this and he is very, very amused. He says, okay, I'll send the boy. I'll send the boy, and I'll have I'll request people to bring him with all the kingly respect, He sends maybe 100 elephants and 100 horses and 100 Javans to bring Yamunacharya. So Yamunacharya comes. The queen, the wife of the king, she's also very intrigued. And see, I mean, knowledge is nice, but people really appreciate being down to earth. This is the principle which is discussed in Bhagavad Gita 2, 5th chapter, 18th sloka. Vidya vinay sampanne brahmane gavhyasini sunichi swapakacha pandita samadarshana. By the way, all our modern day ideals, democracy and equality, communism, and all fall in front of Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is the highest ideal. Vidya vinay sampanne brahmane gavhyasini sunichi swapakacha pandita samadarshana. So anyway, the queen is she's not happy with the Asthana Pandit, and she says, you know what, your Kolahala, the Asthana Pandit, he's puffed up, so I think he will actually lose to the small boy. And then she goes on to say, if Yamunacharya does not win, I'll become the dasi of my maidservant. I'll become the maidservant of my maidservant. The king's ego is hurt. So then the king says, okay, if Yamunacharya wins, I'll give him half the kingdom. So they start debating. The Kolahala and Yamunacharya start debating. Yamunacharya is a little boy, like 7 years or 12 years old. And Kolahala asks all kinds of questions to Yamunacharya, and Yamunacharya successfully answers them. And Kolahala starts getting a little bit tense, what's going on. So he finally says, oh, Yamunacharya, why don't you ask me questions and I will answer them. So then Yamunacharya says, I'll make 3 statements. You have to prove them wrong. I could be getting these statements wrong. Please excuse me. You should read this book published by ISKCON on Ramanuja, on Ramanujacharya, and it discusses this very well. So Yamunacharya says disprove this statement, your mother is not barren. A barren woman is one who is childless. So Kolahala could not say anything. And then Yamunacharya says the next question, disprove this statement, the king is not pious, meaning the king is sinful. And then Kolahala does not have an answer. Then Yamunacharya starts the third wager, disprove that the king's wife is not chaste, and meaning show that the king's wife is not chaste. Kolahala is, he's very, very anxious. He says, what is this? How can anybody say that, the king is sinful, and how can anybody say that the queen is not chaste, and how can anybody say that my mother is barren, after all I'm her son? So this is not possible, and you're just joking with me, and you should be put to Mrityudand, which is death penalty for blasphemy against the king and the queen. Yamunacharya, and then Kolahala tells Yamunacharya, you need to respond, you need to prove your statements, why your statements are right. Then Yamunacharya says, according to Manusamhita, a woman who has only one son is barren, therefore your mother is barren. And the second statement which Yamunacharya says is, the king gets 1/6 of the papa or punya, the pious credits or the bad karma associated with the citizens. So because the citizens are sinful, the king gets 1/6 of the sins, therefore the king is sinful. And by the way, this point is also made by Maharaj Prutu in Srimad Bhagavatam, somewhere around 4th canto, 27th chapter, etc. So you should read Srimad Bhagavatam. And Prutu Maharaj, he is a very, very pious king, he is a very, very powerful king, but he is also an incarnation of Lord Vishnu. So Lord Vishnu is saying that the kings get 1/6 of the good or the bad karma of their subjects. And then talking about his third question, he says the king is a representative of all the demigods like Indra, Varuna, Chandra, Soma, Surya, etc. And the queen is married to all of these. I think there are 7 personalities. So because she is married to 7 personalities, she cannot be chased. So Kolahala at that point accepts his defeat. And here comes the most interesting story about Brahminical culture. Just think about it. How many of our kids are we bringing them up in a manner in which they can run a kingdom at the age of 7 or at the age of 12? So the king, true to his word, he gives half the kingdom to this Brahminical boy. This Brahminical boy then gets a kingdom. He becomes a king, and all the kings start all the kings around that area now attack this small boy, small kingdom, because they say, oh, he's a small bacha, we'll defeat him. And Yamunacharya, who is very, very shrewd, he defeated all the kings. So, how many of us are really training our kids to be intellectually very, very powerful enough that they can actually run a kingdom? This is an example why we should try to become more Brahminical, and why we should try to imbibe the principles of Brahminical culture into our kids. And we should also appreciate ISKCON, because ISKCON is trying to establish Brahmanas all over the world. Thank you for your time. Hare Krishna. All glories to Yamunacharya. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.